All right, number 2 says, if the demand function for the sale of widgets is given by P times quantity Q plus 4 is equal to 400, supply is given as 2P minus Q minus 38 is equal to 0, find the market equilibrium. Okay, so P is our Y value, correct? P is our Y value. So let's go to Desmos. All right, so I said P is Y. Nice thing is Desmos handles this stuff plugged in any order. So if our P value is Y, we can just go Y quantity X plus 4, close parentheses, equals 400. Oops. Delete, close parentheses, equals 400. Okay, so if we get a weird looking shape that looks like that. Okay, so let's make that a darker. All right, and then the other one, we have 2P minus Q, so the next one is going to be 2Y minus X minus 38 equals 0, which should be a linear equation. Okay, so friends, is this value down here, does that mean anything? No. Okay, especially in business, you want to focus on usually quadrant 1 in the XY axis. So this is just our y-intercept, so that just means if we do 0, we get to that. But that's our equilibrium point. So 12 comma 25. If it ever says sketch the graph, dude, you did it on Desmos. I mean, I wouldn't even put the XY axis in there. I draw kind of a curve and a line, put this dot, 12 comma 25. You did it perfect. Okay. The values it gave you 0 to 20 and 0 to 100 are for if you were using the TI graphing calculator. So kind of ignore that when they tell you those things. And then number 3 said you have C at X is equal to 3600 plus 100X plus 2X squared. Suppose further that weekly demand, bless you, function is for the price P equals 500 minus 2X. Find the number of units is break even. What should be the selling price? Okay, so I think this one was probably unique. So C at X is the same thing as Y. So we get Y equals 3600 plus 100 X plus 2X squared. So if you go and find this, it should be a parabola way up here. Okay. And then the other one, you have P equals, so that's Y equals 500 minus 2X. Okay. Oh, do I have it right? Yep. Okay, so what do you notice about the graphs? What will they not do? What are they not going to do with each other? Cross. Okay, so here's a question for you. Is it possible that you make a decision in a business that's impossible to meet? Okay, let's say you're a manufacturer. You have a whole bunch of employees that make stuff. You have an order that comes in that's too big. Okay? So there's something that the federal government does. A lot of times federal government, there will be government contracts offered out to the general population of corporations to do. Okay? When they do that, companies will bid on the items. Like if they need to make a new road, they're going to go to the road construction crew companies and say, hey, we needed to build a 4-lane highway. It has to be 50 miles, has to go north-south between here and here. So companies will bid on it because government contracts, it's a good way to have money. But what's going to happen is there's companies that will not bid appropriately, and they would go bankrupt because the money that they would make is a negative amount of money, which means they're losing money. So anytime there's a large government contract that goes out there, the auditors for the IRS get involved. They stop messing with the taxpayers of America, and they start doing the books to see if these companies can actually handle it. Because one, if the government contract goes through, the government wants that item to be completed. They want it to be completed. They realize that people have to make money. There's people being employed. So the federal government's not going to go with the cheapest offer always, but they would look at it saying, can a company sustain themselves? Okay? True story. During World War II, they needed pain-relieving medications for the troops. Now, they might have had some things that were just knock people out, painkillers, but they wanted another kind of painkiller that could help somebody. Now, aspirin at the time, which is salicylic acid, was the only thing available. Tylenol hadn't come out yet. Ibuprofen hadn't come out yet, or any of the other fancy ones. If you walk into Target or Safeway and you go to the painkiller aisle, like, I don't know which one to pick. So the federal government went to Bayer Aspirin and said, we need aspirin. Okay? Bayer Aspirin said, you can have all that aspirin you want. Well, we want to send our auditors in. Bayer Aspirin did not want the auditors in. Because do you know that in a bottle of aspirin, which is salicylic acid for the most part, that's how aspirin works. Okay, salicylic acid. The reason why people say, oh, I don't like taking aspirin because it doesn't work. Actually, aspirin does work. But do you want to know what part of your body absorbs aspirin for aspirin to work? Your bladder. Okay, think about that. You take medication, it has to go through your whole digestive system, gets absorbed into your bloodstream, and then when your bloodstream gets to your bladder, the bladder will absorb the salicylic acid and release it into your bloodstream to allow the aspirin to work. How far is the bladder from your mouth? Well, I'm not talking about, I don't need you to measure anything, but there's a long, long procedure for aspirin to get through before it's absorbed by your body. Tylenol is absorbed by your liver. Tylenol works a little bit faster. Okay? Ibuprofen is also absorbed by your liver. It works faster. So many of you might have figured out, I like taking ibuprofen if I get a headache because I get rid of it quicker. You're absolutely right. The medication starts working quicker because it's absorbed quicker by the human body. But when Bayer Aspirin was contacted by the federal government during World War II saying, we need aspirin, Bayer Aspirin just said, take all the aspirin you want. Because Bayer Aspirin didn't want the secret to get out that in order to make one aspirin is like 0.901 of a penny. Okay? Meaning the cotton that's at the top of an aspirin bottle costs more for the company to purchase than the actual aspirin takes to produce. The federal government was beside themselves, realizing that this company is making like 100 million% profit on aspirin. Okay, they didn't want that to get out, but it did get out. So, back in the day, back in World War II especially, the mode of information that the majority of people would get is the front lines of a newspaper. If they lived out in the country, they wouldn't have had that. So the public didn't find out about it really, okay, because the information couldn't get out there quick enough. Yes, they had news that would be on the radio, so people would hear radio news, Some people might have had a television set, which was black and white. You know, it was kind of weird. I will tell you, growing up in Arizona, I moved to Arizona in 1974. I was a little kid, 3 years old. If I wanted to call my friend Matt Owens, who lived right across the street from me, I had to dial on the rotary phone 0460. If he wanted to call me, he had to call 1202. That's all we had to do as far as the telephones went. We had 3 television stations in Arizona. We had CBS, we had KPHO TV5, which was a local Arizona television station, and we had PBS. We didn't have ABC and we didn't have NBC. We didn't have cable. We didn't have streaming services. We didn't have VCRs to watch movies when we wanted. It didn't exist. We had 3 channels that you had to actually get up from your couch, walk up to the TV, turn the dial to one of the 3 stations. We had rabbit ears on the TV, the antenna, that you had to lean a certain way. And there was definitely times where you'd get really close to the rabbit ears, which are just these basically cords that you pulled out. They were like aluminum. You stood next to them, you got a really good signal. You walked away, the signal got bad because your body responded to it. So it was kind of goofy. So, that was in the 70s that I saw that. So just think about back in World War II, the majority of the homes in America did not have a television. Radio was that mode of getting information. Newspapers might have been delivered. Who knows? So this is an impossible event. So just think about if that were to take place. They don't intersect, therefore it can't happen. So if the federal government came in, and let's say this had to do with the company bidding on something, federal government, they might not look at using Desmos with purple and green lines and parabolas, but they're going to realize you can't afford it. The government doesn't want your company to go bankrupt. The government wants their job done. So things can indeed be impossible events in business. And that's a wise thing to know. Know your limits. Businesses don't go into business to say, I hope we're bankrupt in a week. It's going to be awesome. Okay. All right. Let's see. 4 and 5. Pretty straightforward, I believe. Okay, you just have to tag a Y to each of those. Suppose a company has a fixed cost $28,000, variable cost of 2/5 X plus 222, where X is the total number of units sold. Suppose that their selling price of the product is Y equals 1250 minus 3/5 X per unit. Find the break-even points, find the max revenue, find the profit function. Okay, I think you guys can do that. And then the nice thing is problem number 5, it's just you know how to graph it. So you can do the whole thing by graphing. So why don't you try those 2 problems? And then I need to write this down because I always forget. It's not because I hate you guys, just my memory just isn't as cool as it used to be. So today is 12:15. And then okay. So these will both be due on Monday. Make sense? So make sure applications in business with profit, revenue, and cost with quadratics worksheets done. And then let's take a look at worksheet 2.3. Let's look at 1 through 5 on those. These will be due, not Monday, Wednesday, right? Because we don't have school on Monday, right? And you guys don't have a Tuesday. We have these fun meetings. You guys are going to be so jealous. I get to do these fantastic meetings. I'm actually presenting at one of the meetings, so, So then I get to have teachers be my critic.